this morning, Bob Murphy, come on up here, Murph, our Rockwell Automation's Vice President of Operations, is here to talk to us about that journey. So Bob and his team have been executing our version of the connected enterprise for the last several years. Good morning, Bob. Welcome to RSTechED.
Good morning, Frank. Glad to be here.
Well, so Bob, I know we talk about the challenges our customers face and the values they're trying to achieve. I have to believe we had many of the same ones.
Absolutely we did, and I'm excited to tell the story about how we went about our journey at Rockwell Automation for all of you this morning.
So that's my cue to get off the stage and let Bob tell you about the journey. I would be remiss as a peer in the organization to say what I've learned over the last year about our journey to the connected enterprise is outstanding. I think you and your team have done a great job, and I want everybody else to hear about it.
Thanks, Frank. Much appreciated.
Okay, Bob.
How about a round of applause for Frank Kulishevitz? So most of you know about Rockwell Automation as a supplier. A lot of you know about us as investors. But this morning, let me share a little bit about who we are from an operations point of view. And to be honest, it's a pretty complex environment that we live in internally within Rockwell Automation. We produce about 387,000 catalog-level SKUs that are available for sale across those 20 plants that Frank spoke of. Plus, we offer a highly configured-to-order and engineered-to-order portfolio of products that range from, say, a stack of LED tower lights, available in whatever color your heart desires, by the way, that might have a 2 to 3 day lead time, selling for around $100, to a single section of a low-voltage motor control center that would have a 7-8 day lead time, selling for about $10,000, all the way up to a large medium voltage drive system that might have a 22-week lead time, selling for up to about $500,000. The average life of our product portfolio, each of those versions, is about 20 years. So for you Star Trek fans out there, our products live long and prosper, very much so. The average order that we receive has about 200 line items tied to it, different part numbers. So in light of that, let me play Captain Obvious here and ask a question. Anybody out there own a smartphone? Yeah, just about all of you. I'd be surprised if any of you don't. I have a confession to make in this life of manufacturing and operations. Before I retire or die, whichever comes first, I want to be the guy making those. One SKU that changes over about every 9 to 12 months, set it and forget about it. But so that's a dream I have occasionally. It's one that I doubt will honestly ever come true. So back to our reality of our complex environment. We've taken that environment, and as Frank said, we've been on a journey ourselves, and that journey has included a total restructuring of our supply chain around the globe. So from the suppliers to the manufacturing aspects, to even the logistics component, we have revamped our supply chain over the last several years. And at the same time, coincident with that, as Frank mentioned, we've been about our global process transformation journey of a new instance of a global ERP. For us, that's SAP. You add all of that together, a complex environment, a restructuring of our supply chain, and the global process transformation ERP level initiative, and quite honestly, it's kind of like trying to change a tire on a car while it's going 60 miles an hour. That's what it's felt like on occasion. So as a result, we really didn't have clear visibility into our operations. What appeared to be best practices, or what might have even appeared to be the most challenging difficulties, they were tough to compare and contrast because they were derived from very disparate sources of information and data, maybe points even within the process that varied plant to plant. So the result was that making good, confident decisions off of known good data was pretty tough to do in our instance. So what did we do? We started by developing this restructuring of the supply chain plan. It was actually about a 5-year plan. We dedicated resources towards the execution of that plan. And quite honestly, we really dedicated resources. We didn't go about this on a part-time basis. I had a staff of about 45 project engineers, program managers, that supported these changes that were taking place around the globe. And then we used a corporately agreed upon playbook for how we were going to execute that restructuring every step of the way. But of utmost importance throughout that journey, we knew that we had to either maintain or improve upon our existing quality and service levels on behalf of our customers. Needless to say, as the journey commenced, we uncovered some things. We ran into a lot of issues that made what was going in a tough assignment even tougher. These plants that I talked about, they had obviously disparate ERP systems. Some of them had multiple ERP systems. In fact, the winner, the trophy, went to one plant that was interacting with 5 ERP systems in one plant. So you can imagine when you're in that kind of environment around the globe, you honestly have 0 global supply chain visibility, which made life difficult for us. We had countless custom applications that were either interacting with or in some instances actually running our shop floor. And behind those applications were hundreds of people that were supporting them. I got to tell you, entire careers were made supporting these applications. The cost to replicate that type of a structure around the globe was absolutely prohibitive. In fact, irrespective of that cost, if we had wanted to, we honestly would not have been able to find the right technical talent to support that level of disparate applications around the globe. So when I think about this journey that we were on of our connected enterprise, getting to that, it really came down to 3 very important aspects. Not surprisingly, people, processes, and technologies. So what about people? Well, we needed to transform what I explained to you, which was really essentially a multitude of very traditional plant-focused organizations into a true global team driving global process excellence. That had to be joined with more lean local teams, which could implement and run our facilities and those processes that we were standardizing on. And this necessitated, from an organizational standpoint, the advent of 2 new functions within our operations world. The first we call APOS, or Advanced Process Operations Support Function. Here we gathered those subject matter experts from around the globe that maintained our processes, the true experts. So whether it was with printed circuit board manufacturing, or it was with final assembly and testing, or molding, or metal fabrication and painting, we grabbed those experts into a common organization that were responsible for the global instances that we wanted to create. And we also realized that we had to do something about this application layer that had just propagated into, frankly, a nightmare of applications that were disparate around the globe. So we created our first Manufacturing Execution Systems organization, an MES layer. It was a grand total of 4 very competent individuals that helped structure that organization from the beginning. And actually, believe it or not, it's grown into, are you ready? 4 very competent individuals that are continuing to maintain that organization. Folks, it doesn't take an army to do this well. So what about our processes? In order to succeed, we had to develop, frankly, a new respect for global standardization. And when you're dealing with a portfolio of 20 plants, you have a lot of pride in what's been created in those plants over the years. There's a lot of great work that's been done. Those custom applications, although in total they're untenable, locally a lot went into trying to optimize that local setting. But frankly, they were not plausible for the instance that we wanted to create. So we had to centralize that strategy from a manufacturing engineering perspective and develop that respect for a global standard way of doing work. And you can imagine, as a plant manager, that's an interesting proposition, right? You have a recipe that you think is working pretty well, and you have someone from another environment around the globe saying, you know, we think you ought to do it this way. But here's the contrast to that. Those of you, there may be some plant managers out here. I certainly have been one on several different occasions. And when you're the one with that custom application that is not supported globally, when things are going well, that's a pretty cool situation, right? You're pretty proud of what you've developed. But when something goes wrong, and you as a plant manager have nobody but the few folks or the keepers of the keys in your organization to pull together, to bring to bear, to resolve what's going wrong with that application, that can be a pretty lonely day for a plant manager, or week or month, as the situation might dictate. Really not a good situation. And quite honestly, Factory Talk Production Center as a layer within our MES solution became critical to enabling a new opportunity for standardization. And then obviously with these processes, we had to localize the execution of them at each plant. And what about those technologies? So as that portfolio of products that we talked about grew, we didn't start there. I've been with our company 35 years, and I can guarantee you we didn't have 387,000 SKUs in 1979. But we do now, plus that configure-to-order, engineer-to-order environment. We, frankly, outgrew our ability to handle that complexity. Largely higher mix, lower volume in disparate, in many instances, manually intensive means. Sure, we had the machine level down. We darn better. We're an industrial automation supplier. We were well on our way to having a shiny new ERP level within the organization with this global process transformation initiative that was underway, our advent of SAP around the globe, giving us global supply chain visibility, some great stuff. Where we were lacking, honestly, was in that middle layer, that manufacturing execution system layer. And here's where tools like Factory Talk Production Center became the core of our advent to a future state. Let me give you an example of a problem that we needed to solve. So one of the processes that we manage around the globe is printed circuit board assembly manufacturing. We have 4 major centers where we do that: in Twinsburg, Ohio, in Mequon, Wisconsin, in Singapore, and in Monterey. So let me talk to you about a day in the life of one of those cells. Let's take Monterey, Mexico as an example. We have 6 printed circuit board assembly lines that are placing parts, robotically primarily. There's a few hand-assembled items for magnetics and such, and we put them through the adhesion process, and we test, and we route, and we get them onto the consuming area. But what does that mix look like in Monterey? On a single day, they will place anywhere between 1.5 to 2 million different parts on those boards. They will use about 6,500 different raw materials on one day in that line. They will produce about 10,000 to 15,000 different boards and items. That will be wrought about 300 different work orders that we release. And we will group many of those work orders together with some intelligence that we have, and we'll end up with about 65 to 70 different changeovers across those lines. And if you can imagine, if we were dealing with the older generation of manual technologies and application programs, we had that working, and we had a lot of manual intervention. And the sum total of all of that mix being processed in one day is actually 55,000 different transactions. And the honest reality is that we can't do that effectively. We can't do it fast with productivity. We can't even do it accurately without the advent of this MES layer. And Factory Talk Production Center has become the centerpiece of that layer, enabling our ability to do that via highly automated, predictable, accurate means. So in the midst of even that journey, there were some solutions that were realized that we didn't even anticipate going into the creation of this more robust MES layer. So let me give you an example. Here you see a picture of a snippet of our PowerFlex 750 series low voltage drives manufacturing flow assembly line. We produce these drives in Mequon, Wisconsin, and in Monterey, Mexico. And what you see here is just one snippet of that flow assembly line where we're in the assembly process, torquing down the product from an assembly perspective. You can see we're interacting with an Atlas Copco, very intelligent, very smart torque system. But what this new and improved MES layer has allowed us to do is be about a totally new generation of revision and specification control. traceability at the lot and at the subassembly side of the equation, and error proofing. So what do I mean by that? So we have documented work instructions that are tied to our SAP process bill of material, which have the specifications contained therein for what all of those various torque settings need to be as generated by this Atlas Copco tool, and they're governed down to the machine level, so we have complete specification control. We're able to link all of the children within that assembly to the parent by barcode technology and FTPC, Factory Talk Production Center, so we have full traceability in that regard, and we have new means of error proofing. So what do I mean by that? If there's anything that goes wrong in that torque process, if a torque doesn't spin exactly like it is intended to, the Atlas Copco machine will send a signal. We'll be able to lock out our ERP system so we can't move. We physically can't move that product from the assembly area over to the systems test area. Or if it passes that fine and it gets to systems test, if the system test fails, say fully loaded dyne testing, the product can't be confirmed in SAP, it can't be moved to the packaging area. So those controls are just some of the things that we're realizing in this journey of our MES layer. So you might wonder, where do we go from here? Well, now it's about continued optimization of this current footprint. Some of you are aware of an axiom in business that I'm personally not all that fond of. It goes like this: no good deed goes unpunished. So as we have improved our execution within the plants, we have new sights set. We know we can do more. From a customer perspective, they're seeing improved lead time and improved predictability, but they want further improvements in lead time and lay point configuration and availability. They want to look, for example, into a portal of that 22-week lead time for that medium voltage drive system, and they want to know where is it at in that journey. They want to be able to, as they're preparing for a witness test at the end of that 22-week journey and shipping, they want to know how are things progressing with the design and the manufacturing of that process. These are things that we can envision creating in our new layer of capability. Ultimately, we're discovering new ways to leverage our people, our processes, and our technologies, those three facets that we talked about before at all of our plants.
So Bob, that's fantastic. So it's amazing. We actually have our own technology running in our own plants, making our own equipment, our own products. That truly is a rise of the machines if you think about it. So what were some of the benefits that we actually realized as a result of this?
Well, let me show you. Whether from within the plant, within our supply chain, or from a service and quality perspective for our customers, we have seen tremendous improvement, which is amplified on this chart, ultimately driving 4 to 5% of productivity every year, which obviously we work to reinvest that in new product development programs and the like.
So I'm assuming to get this kind of value, we must be implementing Factory Talk Production Center in just about every facet of our manufacturing operations.
In fact, Keith, we are. Whether it's with vastly improved and automated production workflow and performance management systems to virtually every aspect of our quality information systems, Production Center is now at the heart of what we do in our plants every single day.
Well, that's fantastic. So we truly have been on a journey. Hey, how about a round of applause for Bob Murphy? That's a great insight. Thanks. So what a great overview of our own journey to the connected enterprise. So as Frank and Bob discussed, each of us are on our own individual journey, and a connected enterprise will allow us to continually adapt our people, our processes, and our technologies in order to stay productive and competitive.